right, welcome back to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman. This episode is brought to you by the Knights of the Raritan, Rutgers NIL Collective. I encourage you to subscribe to the Knights of the Raritan newsletter for an inside look at all things Rutgers athletics. I'll have the link in the description of this episode on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Knights of the Raritan provides a unique way for Rutgers athletic programs to be successful in the ever-changing NIL environment. Become a member of the Knights of the Raritan for a chance to win giveaways, unique experiences, exclusive event invites, and more. And most importantly to me, it helps Rutgers student athletes with NIL and helps our athletic programs be successful. And I hope you consider it. So, wanted to touch on Rutgers men's basketball recruiting for the class of 2025. This past weekend was a really big recruiting weekend, live period, EYBL circuit in full action, and Rutgers was all over in terms of being in Indiana and targeting some prospects that they've been recruiting for a very long time. So I wanted to kind of touch on 5 prospects in the class of 25. None of these are new names if you've been following who they've been recruiting over the last year plus in this cycle. But I think the greater point to this is that Steve Pikiell, the coaching staff, are very much operating at a higher level on the recruiting trail in terms of who they're targeting, who they're in the mix for. And it's very apparent that they're aware of the moment and how important it is to continue to build momentum on the recruiting trail after a historic 2024 haul with Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, 2 of the top 3 recruits coming, Lathan Somerville, then you have Dylan Grant and Bryce Dortch, potentially adding a guy like Jamie Vinson, top 250, 3-star big man who recently visited over the last couple of days. They are bringing in a top 5 recruiting class. And regardless of what happens on the court this season, it is paramount that they continue to build momentum and keep positive forces moving forward on the recruiting trail. And yes, it's not just portal recruiting these days. High school recruiting is very important. And the hope is that some of the 24 guys will stay past 1 year and they can build with them. But then also you have to have some elite talent coming in from the 25 class as well. You can't just rely on the portal. And I think Rutgers has done a good job of filling gaps with the portal. But ultimately, they're going to get elite talent through high school. I think NIL-wise, it's more realistic for a program that is not a top 20 NIL program. And Steve Pikiell is all about building relationships, and the high school recruiting process, it just fits him better. It fits the staff better, just in terms of how well thought out they are. They're extremely good at identifying talent very early on in the process. So I want to get into 5 players that are at the top of their list for the 2025 recruiting class. They watched most of them this past weekend. And there's even, some decisions that are potentially coming down the pike pretty soon, starting with 4-star Jalen Harrell, wing from Massachusetts. He's the number 1 player in the state. He is a currently ranked, and all the rankings I'm going to use are 24/7 composite rankings, which involves multiple recruiting services. He's the 101st player overall, the 24th best wing in the country. As I said, top player in Massachusetts, plays for Cambridge Arts and Technology and Science. He's from Braintree. I lived in Boston a while. I know the area. He plays for Expressions on the EYBL. Has a teammate that Ruckers is targeting as well. We'll talk about him next. He is formally announcing on May 28th, so a week from now, he will make a decision. His final 6 teams, Alabama, Virginia Tech, Rutgers, Kansas, and then the perceived favorite Providence, and then also Xavier now. He's taking a last-minute visit. So typically when you get a last visit, that definitely gets you in the mix. Could be even a good sign. So Rutgers is right there. There was some buzz on the recruiting sites this weekend that, Rutgers is making a late push and that, it's resonating. So certainly has a chance for him. He is a dynamic and versatile scorer. He is 6'5", and, he's a little slight. He's got to add some muscle. But, can't teach offensive talent in the way that he is able to just create for himself, for his teammates. And he's a sought after recruit. I mean, Alabama, Providence, Xavier, Kansas, Rutgers right in the mix. And again, it just speaks to how far recruiting has come under Steve Pikiell through the years. So we'll find out on May 28th on him. In terms of his teammate with expressions, is 6-foot point guard Nigel James. Ruckers has recruited him for a very long time. He visited it last year as well, has taken an official visit in addition to Marquette. Louisville recently offered with new head coach Pat Kelsey. Georgia Tech has offered old friend Carl Hobbs. Providence is in on him. He is a true Steve Pikiell recruit, textbook, tenacious on the ball defender, and a legitimate ball distributor as a point guard. A little bit smaller than what Rutgers typically targets, but they really like this kid. They've been on him for a long time. 4-star. He is 84th overall in the 25 class, the 14th best point guard, 4th in New York State. But he is someone that they watched this weekend along with Harrell, and they're really high on. And I think of all the recruits, it just, again, I'm not a recruiting analyst, but just reading the tea leaves and following this the last year plus, it seems like they have as good a shot with Nigel James as anyone else they're recruiting in the 25 class. So we'll see how that shakes out. Dorian Jones recently visited Rutgers in April. He is a 4-star shooting guard, 6'4", 62 overall in the 25 class, 9th best shooting guard, number 2 in Ohio, plays for New Height Lightning on the EYBL, Rutgers, Alabama, Arkansas, Oklahoma. He's visited Missouri and Ohio State, setting up a visit to Michigan, Houston, Illinois, USC. Super athletic, very good shooter. He scored 25 points in a game this weekend, 9 of 17 from the floor, 4 of 3 from 3, but also a legit two-way player. He had 3 steals, 2 blocks in that game as well. So, one common thread with all these players in the 25 classes, they all have elite talent, but they're also extremely athletic, extremely versatile. And you just see the vision of Steve Pikiell, that what he wanted to do last year, how he's building the roster for this season, and how he's recruiting for the future. It's all about players that have great versatility, positional versatility, skill set versatility, be able to mix and match on the floor, put people in different spots in different situations. We've talked about positionless basketball before. I've made the comps to Michigan in just terms of wanting to space the floor. He's obviously targeting very good offensive players, but guys that fit on paper and that can, he's targeting a lot of guards right now, guys that can play on the perimeter, whether it's point guard, shooting guard, wing. That's who the focus is right now in the 25 class. Dorian Jones, like I said, he recently visited. Everyone's after him. His stock is rising. Top 10 shooting guard in the class. We'll see how the summer circuit goes with EYBL, but they're certainly in the mix there. They felt very good about the visit. So I think they have a very good shot with him as well. It won't be easy. But, Harrell, I think you have Providence probably in the lead. Xavier's got a good shot as well. Rutgers certainly trying their best and could ultimately land him. But I think in terms of Nigel James and Dorian Jones, they're in a better position as of today. Recruiting's fluid. It changes all the time. Perfect example, Darius Acuff Jr., who has just exploded on the recruiting trail. Another example of Rutgers getting in on him very, very early on. Before he was ranked, Rutgers had offered him. They identified him pretty early on in the process. Has become a top 10 recruit, 5-star. He is from Detroit. Smoke Williamson, the assistant, has connections there. He plays for the family, the AAU program that Smoke Williamson used to run. Also teammates of 5-star Trey McKinney, who we'll talk about next. But Acuff, according to the recruiting services and some chatter on Discord, is all of a sudden Rutgers kind of back in the mix. Adding Tyson Acuff has certainly helped. That's his cousin, Smoke Williamson, getting him from the transfer portal from Eastern Michigan, number 8 scorer in the country this past season. Going to be a key part of next season's roster. But the Smoke Williamson relationship, bringing Tyson Acuff, Darius' cousin, he was supposed to take an official visit to Rutgers last February, canceled. All the Blue Bloods are in the mix. Now that Cal is at Arkansas, them and Kansas are kind of considered the favorites right now. But Alabama's involved, UConn's involved, Rutgers. He's just an explosive player, full package. Offensively, can pretty much do it all. He's also a very good distributor for such a talented, elite offensive player. He can score in multiple ways. But he is a extremely confident point guard that is can basically lead an offense, but create offense for himself off the bounce in space, and he just plays with an edge. If you can watch highlights of him, you would love him, and obvious reasons why Rutgers is all over him, as are pretty much every program in the country. So again, Rutgers is a little bit of an in there with Smoke Williamson. Doesn't mean Acuff will ultimately go to Rutgers, but they are certainly in the mix, back in it. So some good momentum there. And then Trey McKinney, another 5-star. He is number 17th, number 12th overall in the country. Number 2 wing. He's an undersized wing. He's kind of a shooting guard, maybe wing hybrid. 6'4", but everyone's after him. He's from Flint. He plays for the family as well. So Smoke Williamson connection. Took an official visit in October, same weekend that Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper visited. Alabama, Arizona State, Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, USC, UCLA, Michigan State, Indiana. He's taking official visits to Georgetown and Rutgers. He's a great shooter, slasher. He's working on his 3-point game. He hit a couple shots down the stretch of a big EYBL game he was in this past weekend. He just plays with a ton of poise, and he's a gamer. And I really like his game. I think he would fit perfectly at Rutgers. And, all 5 of these guys that I mentioned, Jalen Harrell, Nigel James, Dorian Jones, Trey McKinney, Darius Acuff, they're another level offensively than Rutgers has recruited in the past. For Rutgers to be intimately involved with all 5 of them, and obviously there's some repeat with positions, but you can never have enough perimeter players. And it just shows the level of elevation that Rutgers has in recruiting, even from just 2 years ago. And it just shows the doors that have opened with Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey putting their faith in Steve Pikiell, committing to Rutgers, going to be on campus in less than a month now. And it resonates with 2025 class. And you're seeing that in action with the talent they're involved in. 4-star, 5-star, top 100 recruits that are involved with everyone, more or less. And Rutgers is right there in the mix. So this is the next step that has to happen. Obviously, you need to land a couple of these guys. And it's going to be a process. It's only May. A lot of elite players, a good amount will commit towards the end of the summer, heading into the school year. If you remember Rutgers, that was part of, Ace Bailey committed super early. But, they love to have kind of a core of a class committed going into the year. It takes a lot of pressure off, and it just helps build momentum throughout the rest of that cycle, and also get a little bit, more involved in the following class, the 2026 class, which Rutgers is also, has some top offers out to, which we'll talk about in another episode. But there's so much riding on this season. There's so much pressure. There's so much attention to it. But there's a long game to this too. And Rutgers they have to elevate the recruiting and be consistent at a high level moving forward. And that means getting 4- and 5-star guys on a regular basis now. And obviously NIL is going to be part of that. And that's something that, that's why I'm, sponsored by Knights of the Raritan. Because if you want to see Rutgers basketball and all the other Rutgers programs take off and rise, do what you can, if you can. And if not, another way to do it is if there's a business in your town that you love in the Rutgers community, go to them, suggest that they give NIL to Rutgers student athletes. This is a community effort if we all work together. But the bottom line is the coaching staff at Rutgers is doing a tremendous job. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this 25 class. If they could follow up the 24 class with the top 20, top 25, 2025 class, who knows? Maybe better. Maybe I'm shooting too low. You grab listen, you get Acuff and McKinney, and you're a top 5 class probably again if you get, another 1 or 2 guys. So again, every year is so different because roster retention is so unpredictable nowadays. But you need to bring in elite talent at the scholastic level. And Rutgers right now is in the mix to very much do that. And that is a very positive sign. And last but not least, I want to congratulate the Ruckers rowing program, number 13th in the country, coming into last weekend, finished third at the Big Ten Championships, tying their best finish ever. They had a gold medal finish, their third varsity four, second year in a row. They've won gold at the Big Tens. They had a silver from the second varsity eight, a bronze from the varsity four. They finished with 137 points. They finished behind number 9 Michigan, number 14 Indiana, but they finished third. And it's just consistency with Justin Price has done an amazing job making Ruckers one of the best rowing programs in the country. They've performed well at nationals the last few years, and they're going to go back and pretty much, top 15 year after year now. So let's see what happens in a couple weeks at nationals. I'll keep you posted there. But great news there for Ruckers rowing. And thank you so much for listening and watching to this episode of the Scarlet Faithful podcast. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.